And I'm not giving up, I'm not giving up, no, not me. Even if nobody else believes, I'm not going down that easily. So don't give up on me.
Hey everyone, are you ready for Christ? You fired up for Jesus? Welcome back to another episode of Radical Christianity, the show that highlights God in action. I am your host, Drew, and I want to thank you for being here today. Well, the Satanic Temple is at it again. This time, they have set their sights on Iowa, the land known for corn, pork, and now apparently Baphomet. Speaking of corn, what did the corn say when he got a compliment? Aw, shucks. Iowa is known as the food capital of the world, but you might want to make sure that you are wearing a cross and carrying holy water when you enter the Capitol building in Des Moines. Why? Well, you see, the Satanic Temple has erected a candlelit altar featuring a huge statue of Baphomet in the public space of the Capitol. The original application called for a real skull of a goat, but the disappointed devotees had to settle for a life-sized horned sculpture draped in velvet robes with a pentagram instead. Man, whatever happened to nativity scenes? If you're like me, maybe you're wondering how this type of demonized display could make its way into a public building. Well, apparently, anyone can apply for it. Come on, Iowa, who is evaluating these applications? The children of the corn? Hey, did you know that Iowa's favorite game is cornhole? Of course it is, right? All right, so the Hawkeye State Representative John Dunwell, who is a pastor, said the display is evil and objectionable, but is allowed under the law. Meanwhile, Iowa Representative Brad Sherman, who is also a pastor, has called on the governor to take down the grotesque display and create legislation to prevent it in the future. Interestingly, the Satanic Temple claims to not believe in Satan or anything supernatural at all and merely makes these displays to highlight the need for more separation of church and state. So they're just mocking the state. Personally, I see no need for these kinds of controversial displays in public places. What about you? Should this display stay or should it go? I mean, tell us what you think on our Facebook page or some social media. And make sure to like and follow so that you can catch our next episode. Hey, what do you call a bunch of tractors parked at the McDonald's in Iowa? Prom night. All right, everyone, enough silliness for now. So tell me, you rad for Christ? You fired up for Jesus? All right. Ladies and gentlemen, big welcome for Adam Beers and Lenny Flores.
How you doing?
Hey, great.
All right.
Thank you. Come on in, guys.
Nice to be on the show.
Thank you.
All right, great.
Praise God.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a really important guest. I am so glad that he has finally made it to the show. Let's have a huge, warm, heartfelt welcome for Dave Cameron. Really, good to see you. Great to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
Have a seat. Yeah. Dave, so glad you're here. Do you know that we have been trying to get you to be a guest on this show for months?
True. Thanks for having me. I'm flattered, but yeah, it's good to be here.
You have so much that you can share. And I hope that our audience gets an earful today, because there is definitely someone out there that needs to hear some of the stuff that you're going through and you've been going through, and that your life has changed, and then you've been doing so much since the change. You know what I mean? So
it's been a great ride.
Yeah. So the system that we normally follow here is we start off with your testimony, and then how that leads into the ministry that you're doing.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Briefly, I started I'm from Sacramento, grew up there, and then moved to the Monterey Bay Area to start a career in paper and packaging. And then moved on from there. I got to Fresno in 1997 to start a company there. And just prior to that, I ran into Christ again head on. And that's when my life began to change. And so when I got to Fresno, I actually started up a company, and about 7 years into the process, we separated. And for a couple of years, I was kind of in limbo. And I was at Clovis Hills Community Church, and that's where I cut my teeth in ministry. And it really started with kind of a volunteer job, and then I went on staff for 20 hours on the facility side. And lo and behold, the Lord had me right where He wanted me. A lot of changes took place within the church, and within months, I was in an executive position at Clovis Hills. And that's really where ministry began for me. It started in recovery. Let me take that back. In the church, it started with administration, finance, campus expansion, and volunteers, managing volunteers on the weekends for Sunday services. That grew into sort of a pastoral role in recovery. And I have a storied background, which is why it was a good place for me to be. And then I got into missions. So my roles evolved over the years, and really enjoyed my time as the international missions pastor at Clovis Hills.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a lot for them to absorb immediately. That's awesome. I know that Shaun Meyer is saying that he has big shoes to fill. So
he's quite a guy, yeah, and he's taken that to a whole nother level. And I've enjoyed watching him grow in the position, and he's doing really well. Yeah, great dude.
Yeah, he was just on here about a month ago or something,
Yeah.
so we had him on here. And,
yeah, he's a great dude, good friend. Him and Jen are really good friends with Becky and I. And I really had a vision for him to be in my place at Clovis Hills. Him and Jen were part of our growth group. And I said to him one day, I can totally see you doing this in another 5-10 years. And fast forward, there he is, and he's doing a great job. Yeah, he's doing a great job.
He's a really good dude too. I've gotten to know him pretty good, I'm excited to see how this role at the church is going to affect his life, like how God's going to use him in this role.
For sure,
because it's a major role that he's filling your spot.
He is, and he's doing a great job. He really is. Yeah.
So so back to your testimony. Don't share anything you don't feel like you want to share, but obviously, it wasn't all like roses and peach juice.
It was not. So my drug use evolved in a culture that allowed that to take place. So while I was having some success professionally, I was struggling with cocaine dependence. And so I had struggles off and on throughout my life, which kind of thrust me into ministry, which is really a good thing for me, and for a lot of addicts. But in the midst of that struggle, I noted I had some successes professionally, which allowed me to move to Fresno and to start a company there. And but I still struggled. So I got out of the culture, but still struggled with an addiction.
Right.
But I ran into when Christ really got a hold of me. He got a hold of me in all ways, and so I was coming off of a divorce and had reconnected with my 3 daughters in a way that was healthy, and so I was trying to find my way. And the church was the church. And when I say the church, it's the church. It's all of us together. It helped me to stay accountable and to move into a healthy sort of lifestyle. And it was there at the church that I really got serious about recovery, and helped my role evolve at Clovis Hills as well, from being a tender to being on staff to being in an executive position, and then into international missions.
Well, let me ask you this question. So this is something I ask a lot of people that suffer from addiction and then come out of it, successfully. did you find that pursuing Jesus relieved a lot of the pain of addiction?
It didn't. I found Christ, and I found him again as an adult, and I thought things would get better immediately. But until you come to terms with your addiction and that your life has become unmanageable and is completely out of control, you can have Jesus in your life and still struggle with addiction. And I did, and I know a lot of addicts who did as well. So you white knuckle it in your faith. But recovery is a process for most people. Now, there's a few of us who just figure it out and they're good to go. But for many of us, it's a process. And so my advice always to addicts is to, when you fall off the wagon or when you lose your way, just make sure you get reconnected with somebody in accountability and begin to find your way again or to get back on the horse as such. And that's been my testimony through the years, is falling off the horse and getting back on. And I think that in the church, in something like Celebrate Recovery, which is a 12-step biblically based recovery program, you find ways to stay accountable and be anchored in a faith-based relationship with Christ in the midst of working on that, along with being accountable to other men in recovery. And that's the key. You can't do it alone. You can't even do it alone and with Jesus. You got to do it with other people too. And that was huge for me. And it helped propel me into a life of well beyond anything I ever imagined. Yeah, really.
Well, that's awesome. I have seen, I would say that the most common miracle that I see that God working on is people coming out of severe addiction.
So I've worked with a lot of men that way. I think addiction, though, and I think way Satan uses it in the socioeconomic place that we are right now, it's very sneaky, and it's embedded in professional lives as well.
Right.
I've worked with a lot of professional men who have a myriad of addictions now, and it runs anything from pornography to gambling to alcohol, all of those things. The addiction behavior is the same, it's just a different thing. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the day, if they can find a recovery program and a high level of accountability, there's been great successes for a lot of men that I got to watch come out of that. It's nothing better than that. There really isn't. It's pretty awesome.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. I love to hear victory stories. You know what I mean? Because I've personally also seen a lot of failure stories.
Mm-hmm.
I've lost quite a few friends to, either stupid things that happen while they're drinking or ODing, mm-hmm. or It's like I've been around long enough to have lost a lot of friends that way, mm-hmm. and so I get real excited when I hear about, somebody who has, overcome it. Although it's not like you said, it's a process.
It is.
I mean, it's not like, there are people that are lucky enough to get that light switch flick, mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And they're like, especially I find that not putting anybody down, but it seems to be more common with alcoholism, mm-hmm. You know what I mean? That they can mm-hmm. just stop drinking, mm-hmm. Obviously cocaine, heroin, harder drugs, you become extremely dependent on, and it becomes very hard to kick them. And if they are around you, it becomes easy to backslip, mm-hmm. So.
I think the greatest victory is when you learn not to chase your drug of choice, whatever that is. And I'm just going to say it again, and for those of you out there too, the best way to do that is with Christ, but with guys in accountability, or gals. You need to be accountable with somebody besides your faith walk.
Yeah.
That's the best way to do it. So.
Yeah, well, that's very 12-step program based. So because you always have like somebody to keep you accountable. They call them sponsors in LA, and I don't know if they call them in
mentors. I call them whatever you want. Just for me, I'm a sneaky addict, so I have an accountability team. So there's several of us. Even at 65, you still have to work. You have to work on it. There's other he's clever, man, and if you figure out one, he'd throw three more at you. That's just how he rolls, especially those of us who call Jesus our Lord and Savior. So anyways.
Yeah. Any way the devil can hobble us, he's after. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. If he can remove our effectiveness, then he's got a small victory.
Exactly.
If he can eliminate us from the discussion, he's beat us entirely.
Exactly.
So, so now you've been doing a lot of ministry overseas and some in Mexico, and so how many places have you been?
Oh gosh, let's see, in the last 2 years I've been to Colombia, the Dominican Republic, to Mexico, the Philippines, Japan, India, and I'm probably missing one in there somewhere. I'm so grateful, and so I'm just so grateful I got to do this. My position at the church changed coming out of COVID, or maybe towards the tail end of COVID, and I thought I might start to sort of wind down professionally, and so our leaders there gave me a great opportunity to go into international missions. And at first, it was pretty quiet because there's nothing going on globally because of the pandemic.
Right.
But once that settled down, I had this great opportunity to reconnect with our churches. I forgot one too, in Malawi in Africa, which is a phenomenal place.
Scott raves about.
Yeah, and rightfully so. And my wife went this year, which was huge. That was huge. Anyways. But I got an opportunity to reconnect with parachurch organizations and nonprofits in our churches globally, and out of Scott and Shaun's vision for me in that position, they really gave me an opportunity to go see the world and share the gospel. And so I've actually preached from prisons in Africa to the slums in India. And I've never been more blessed in my life, maybe, than this last 2 years. And God is everywhere, and his people are amazing. I don't care if you're on the continent of Africa or if you're in Central America. God's people and their makeup is really not too different from one country to the next. Most are warm, loving, on fire for the Lord. They're planting churches and making disciples, and taking care of their families. And that doesn't change too much from country to country. Their circumstances certainly are a lot different than those of us who live in North America, for sure. But it's been a great ride. And I think if I was going to say, there's all kinds of things I could talk about, but there is at some level, internationally, all of us mostly who aren't radicalized one way or the other, just want to worship our God, make a living for our families, and take care of them, and enjoy that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, actually, I do. Actually, I know exactly
what you mean. It's not complicated, really.
It's all I want with my life is I just want to serve God. You know, not have to worry about my bills, and enjoy time with people I care about. That's really like all I want. But that's the
world's complicated.
The world's complicated. The United States is really complicated. The devil is adamant here about making us not able to survive without killing ourselves time-wise for the most part.
I think our culture lends to that. That's the great distraction.
Yeah. I think he's responsible for the culture that we have.
Yeah. But at some level here, I mean, this is our home, and I wouldn't want to live anywhere else. And there's not
a lot of great choices.
Yeah. And especially when you get the opportunity to see other people in other settings. But those people even too, that for most people, whether you're in the Philippines or Africa or even Japan, a very wealthy a country, most people live in their little community internationally, and most of them don't wander so freely outside of that for most of their lives. And despite how tough it can be, and I've seen some things you just don't know why that is. God's going to have those answers for us when we get to where we're going.
Right.
But for most people, it seems as though even as tough as it is, there's a contentment that a lot of Christians in those places have that we struggle as Americans to find even in our setting. And that's another thing that sort of is uniform from country to country in some really compromised places. There's a contentment in those people despite the struggle, especially Christians. There's a contentment that's unmistakable and that I envy maybe at some level. You know what I mean?
I do. I understand that because I did missions in Mexico, and 30 years ago, Mexico was a lot more impoverished than it is now. And what I realized that it was a lot easier. I mean, it's easy to love Jesus. You know what I mean? It's harder to function in society and to wear Jesus on your sleeve. You know what I mean? Because you almost don't want to repel people so that you can witness to them. You know what I mean? So there's this catch-22 situation. You don't kind of see that kind of thing in those other areas because they're not afraid to talk about Jesus.
And so I'll self-disclose when Shaun and Scott asked me to gave me the opportunity to go out internationally, I was actually excited about the opportunity to share the gospel internationally because for whatever reason, in those settings, I tend to be more courageous. I feel disarmed in a way that I can share my faith with people who don't speak the same language with me, and I have an interpreter next to me as opposed to maybe the person who lives in the house 3 doors down from me. I don't know exactly why that is, but what I do know is that in all of those places that I've had the privilege to go to, it's been a joy to share the gospel with people and watch people come to Christ. It just happened while we were down in Mexico this last weekend.
Awesome.
And we worked on a guy for 3 years down there, and he stepped over the line of faith. And there's just nothing more beautiful than that.
Than the holdouts? That's always the most gratifying, I imagine.
But for whatever reason, it's just, for me personally, I just really enjoy sharing the gospel internationally, and it just feels easier. That's the right thing to say.
Speaking of sharing the gospel easy, now India can't be that easy. And it's pretty hostile to Christians there, right?
So India's tough. By the way, Tony O'Donnell's amazing. She's an amazing woman. She's a force. She's
next time she's in town, we want to try and get her on here.
You do. You want to talk. She's a force over there, and her nonprofit is doing some amazing things. India's a different culture for sure. I think I had some misconceptions about India before I went over. I was thinking that it was going to be super dark spiritually. Actually, they're very spiritual. They're just spiritually misdirected. So for us as missionaries over there, and we worked, by the way, in all of our mission trips, we partner with people. We don't go to Africa or India or certainly not Japan or anywhere and impose a customer, a belief they're not familiar with, or we're not going to go over there and rescue them. We partner with our churches and parachurch organizations and nonprofits, and to collaborate that way, it's enjoyable. But certainly India is probably the toughest place I've ever been to from a physical standpoint. Personally suffered some things physically from the trip. But the people are amazing. In New Delhi, it's pretty cosmopolitan. I mean, it's not cosmopolitan as we would experience it here in the States, but it's a very up-and-coming city. And I never felt unsafe. And it was a comfortable city to move around in, and we stayed in the M district, which was super nice. We stayed in a decent place, and so we moved around freely. As you move out of New Delhi, it can be tougher and restrictive. And again, though, I never felt unsafe, and we went to some incredible places. We went to there are some pastors on the ground in India who are Christians who are being persecuted. We didn't witness any of that, but it's tough for them, for their families. It can be unsafe. And we visited some of them in the slum settings that they minister in, and they're doing an incredible work. And I could see where that can be tough. It's really, the slums of Delhi are probably some of the toughest places I've ever experienced. And then from a humanity standpoint, you don't know how those people do that. I really don't. Just smells and conditions and things that you wouldn't want to see, let alone try to live out in. So for those pastors that are sharing the gospel, it's amazing what they're doing. And some of them are risking their lives depending on geographically which part of the city they're in. And then we got to fly to Bihar in Patna, I think is the country, or it might be the other way around. Patna is in Bihar, and that's another amazing place. And my partner was Derek Alvarez. He's the high school or family pastor at Clovis Hills.
Yeah,
and he's an amazing dude. But we had a great time. But we had the privilege of sharing the gospel with over 1,000 people there that day. Myself and Derek and Tony, and it was an amazing day. So. While it was super tough, it was really tough. I've not seen filth like that before. The air quality was super tough, and that's where I struggle. I'm still battling some respiratory issues. The AQI over there is 500.
Wow.
On almost a daily basis. There are days you couldn't see the sun because of the smog.
I guess you don't have too many joggers there.
I think everybody we ran into had some kind of upper respiratory thing going on. It's really tough just from a physical standpoint. So they're an amazing people. It's an amazing culture. It's a beautiful culture. It's got some sideways stuff, just like all cultures do. We did get to visit a Hindi temple, which is quite strange. But they allowed us to come in. It's you got about 1,000 idols to choose from. Pick one that you enjoy, and that's kind of how it goes.
Yeah.
We did get to go to a mosque, and there in Old Delhi, they're doing incredible work there. They're ministering to their neighborhood, which is a really tough area. They prepare meal in this huge, gigantic mosque. They have a kitchen area, and they have this process where they put food together, and they'll feed anybody that comes into the mosque. So their belief system certainly is different than ours, but the humanity side of them is they were out in the neighborhood helping their neighbors, which was really cool to see.
Yeah, even though Muslims aren't followers of Jesus, they are still children of Abraham.
Oh my gosh, and it's an amazing culture. They were really all about their neighborhood there, and it's a pretty good sized mosque. Tony, our leader, she did a great job of sort of indoctrinating those of us who hadn't been there before culturally. So she did all this on the front end of our ministry work there, which was invaluable when we went out and partnered with our Christian brothers and sisters out in the field. So it was a fabulous trip. I'm glad I went. I'm not sure I'm ever going to make it back, but it was an awesome trip, and I'm privileged to have been there as well. Yeah, for sure.
That's awesome. So, what do you think that for our viewers that our prayers really needs the most prayer?
Oh gosh, I would say globally for Christians, it's getting, especially for those in the clergy, it's getting tougher. Their safety is really in the places that we all know, especially in the Middle East and those kinds of places, it can be tough. But it's becoming more systemic globally, and it's tough for Christian pastors. They can get out there, but their lives are at stake, and their families, it's not always safe for them. So I think if we could just pray for their safety, because God's moving. There's no getting around it. You can see that Christianity is spreading in those places that we've been to. Like I said, from the prisons of Malawi, there's a church plant there now, and we're in the midst of, looks like, planting another church in Malawi. So God is on the move in places that you'd least suspect, but that we would pray for all of those people and their safety as they share the gospel to their brothers and sisters in their own country, for sure.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. You guys got that? All right. So thank you so much for coming on Radical Christianity.
Yeah, you bet. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. We definitely want to have you back and have you follow up with what's going on, because I know
Sure.
you're taking this new venture, your next phase of life. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm never gonna. Ministry's always gonna be a part of my life, and I'm not wired for retirement. So while I'm not on the church staff anymore, I'm still going to look for opportunities where God can use me, both locally and internationally.
Well,
so,
if you're looking for opportunities for God to use you and you're asking for Him, you know He's going to deliver.
He will, yeah, for sure.
So we would definitely like to keep up on that and keep hearing some more stuff. So,
okay, great, Drew. Yeah, thanks for having me on too. Thanks you guys too. Thanks for having me.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. It's housekeeping time again. Yes, I know you guys love the times of housekeeping when we have to sit here and you get to laugh at me looking so awkward because I'm stumbling over my words and I'm so bad at asking for money. But still got to do it, because we here at Radical Christianity operate off of donations from viewers like yourself. Yes, we would love to be able to provide you with a wonderful show with newer features, new entertainment, more powerful messaging, if God is willing. And if God is willing, He will move your heart, and you can go to radforchrist.com. That's R-A-D, the number 4, Christ.com. Click on the donate link and give us $5, $10, $15, $20, whatever God is moving your heart to provide us, so that you can partner with Him and get the good news out to other people who need to learn that it is not a toxic thing, this Christianity. It is a beautiful experience. It is a wonderful way to live your life. And Jesus Christ loves them too. So if you want to get that message out, you want to bring people back home to Jesus, just, help us out with the show. And, and it'll be a blessing for you, be a blessing for us. And it would be a great addition to the family of God to have some more people join us. Anyway, if you cannot provide money, that is okay, because there are other ways that you can help us, right? You can reach out to us on social media or on our website, and you can let us know that you have some people that you would love to see. You want to tell us thank you for whatever, or maybe you want to share the video with your family and friends, and maybe let people know about our Facebook page or our YouTube channel. Whatever, just reach out and do some sharing and spread the word. That would be a great way that you can help us. Anyway, all of that said, awkwardly, I just want to say thank you for joining us, and now on with the show. Ladies and gentlemen, got some great guests coming up right now. So we want to have a really, really, really warm welcome for Shaun Brown and Eric Self.
Nice to have you here.
Hey, great to be here. Thanks. Please have a seat. Cool. Guys, welcome to Radical Christianity. It is great to have you guys here. So, Shaun, Eric, you guys have a men's ministry.
Yes.
That you guys are going to be talking about. But before we get into that, the way we kind of normally do things is we start off with the testimony, like how you met Jesus, and then how that led into the ministry. So since you're closer, you get to go first.
All right. So PG or R-rated?
Ideally PG.
All right. So I was 18 years old. Kind of lived on whatever couch I could find for the last 3 years, kind of here and there with homes. And didn't have the best adult supervision, so I was doing things that I shouldn't be doing. And I'll leave those out. But January 24th, 1995 was the day that my life changed. So his brother, David, came over about 3 weeks before and said, hey, I want you to come to church with me. And he used to run with me, and he was crazy. And I'm like, what is this? And so I didn't know what it was at the moment, but I had to go. I didn't know why. I know what it is now. So our common friend Donald, that's in our guys' accountability group, he said, well, why don't you just go? I said, okay. So of course I forgot, and I was doing other things that I shouldn't be doing that night. And next day, David shows up, says, you ready for church? And okay, I'll go. So I got dressed and got in the car, and felt really dirty. I got in the car, and remember Carmen? Mm-hmm. They were playing Carmen music, and everybody had their Bibles. And
Sunday's on the way.
Mm-hmm. And I just felt really like a bad person. And I had been up for 2 nights and walked into the building. It was the old Bridge building. I don't know if you remember that, EV Free.
Right there.
It's like a Walgreens now. But yeah. So I walked in, and as soon as I walked in, I was normal. No coming off of drugs or anything like that, just normal. And I didn't tell anybody because I thought that was really crazy. And it's something that we wished would happen, but it never did. And so I just remember sitting around. They did some worship songs, and I was thinking, wow, this is really different. I'm not used to this. I grew up Lutheran, which I love my Lutheran brothers, but we never had like a band play or anything like that. And then they separated us into small groups, and the small group I was in had about 15 kids, and I remember they were really into the Lord, but they weren't weird, and they were just kind of normal kids that loved God, and that didn't make sense to me. And I remember God kind of just putting it on my heart, like, this is who you're going to be now. And I didn't say a prayer or nothing. I just looked at David and I said, I think I want to be a Christian like you. Because I grew up calling myself a Christian, but I wasn't on my way to heaven. And he did a really cool thing. He didn't corner me. He just said, okay, then you will. And I went home and told all my buddies that, hey, I'm done with this life. And because there were gang ties, it was kind of a scary moment. Mm-hmm. And my friend Justin kind of stepped in front of everybody and said, look, we're all hypocrites. We know that if you're doing this for God, it's a good thing, but we're going to watch you. So I walked around my neighborhood with my Bible in my hand for 2 years, and I was a new person. So the next morning, I used to wake up really mad every morning, hated life. And I woke up the next morning and I went, God, you changed me. Like I was different. I felt it. Everything was changed. And I went to work, and one of the youth leaders there gave me a little tract called Your Most Important Relationship. And I just read through it at lunch and said the prayer at the end just to make sure. I was like, I better check that box off. But yeah, ever since that day, I've been serving the Lord, and I have ups and downs, but He's never left me, and it's changed who I am.
Excellent. That's awesome. That's a good testimony.
Thank you.
Yeah. What about you, Eric?
Well, mine was pretty simple. I'm lying. It's not simple. Not even close. Not even close. Wow. So I guess that way you can describe my upbringing. So I grew up in the church. So I was, I think it was around 12 is whenever I knew the Lord. And then when I got into my late teens, I decided to, I wanted to do things on my own. Started hanging around with different people, different crowds. So I was the prodigal son. I left. I completely left. And I left for a very long time. I left until probably my 31, 32 years old. And so one thing led to the next, bad decision after bad decision. Next thing I know, I'm this is again, I've been in jail. Like this is like a repeated thing. But this one time, which I call the last time, I sat in that jail cell, the one where you can make a phone call. I mean, most people don't know that, but you can make a phone call in that very first cell. And I just got down on my knees and said, Lord, I'm gonna serve you. I said, I have a made up mind. Like no matter what happens in my life, you're a part of it and you're the center of it, and I'm coming back to you. So I made that commitment in the prison or the jail cell. Was going in front of the judge, and I was in jail for about 4 months, waiting for because basically I had broke the probation that I was on from doing the things that I was doing, and so I had a 2-year prison sentence hanging over my head. And so I went in there, and the judge said, he looked at my file, and I was just standing there, and I remember telling the Lord, please I don't want to go to prison. Don't send me there. And this is before I even went in the courtroom. He said, you're going. And I was like, no, I don't want. And I feel like he wanted me to see that side, just to kind of nail it home. Just like, this is where you're going towards. So I just went in the courtroom, and the judge was there. The DA was there. He said, just to back up a little bit, the year before I had violated. And so I had been in jail, and I did what's called a county year, which is not really a year. It's only 8 months and 20 days. Mm-hmm. So I had done that prior, and then I was still on probation, when I got out. This time they're saying, you violated too much. We're going to send you. But the judge goes, hold on. He goes, it looks like all these things are connected. And he was talking about the year before where I had served time. And he said, you have 2 years with half. He goes, I'm going to give you time served for the year you did last year, along with what you've done already in here. And then when they took that time and cut it in half, I was in there 100 days, so a little over 3 months. And so, I was happy. The DA was not. He was yelling at the judge, and the judge said, "This is my courtroom. This is what the sentence is going to be." And then that was it. And then they took me out. The only prayer that I had when I remember the Lord telling me, you're going to go, was I said, and I don't know why I said it, but I said, at least give me a Christian judge who's going to judge me. And that's all I said. There was nothing. There was no confirmation or anything at that time or anything. So I was in reception and sitting around playing cards with guys, and everyone's talking about who their judge was and everything. And I said, oh, this is my judge. And one of the guys sitting at the table goes, oh, I know him. He's sentenced me before and stuff. And he goes, and all these guys knew that I was a Christian, because that I made everyone know that in jail and then when I went. And he said, he's a Christian, right? And I didn't know at the time. And so that was kind of cool, because I found out, like, he kind of answered my prayer even though I didn't know it. It was just this thing I just threw out there. I think I threw out there when I was mad, knowing I was going to go. So you fast forward, and the three months happens, and I get out, and now my family's watching me, and they don't know what kind of a commitment that I've made. And so but from that point on, my probation officer loved me. She said, I wish I had someone like you. I got off early, and then I went through and went back to school, and now I'm teaching and stuff like that. So it all started in that jail cell where I had that made up mind and said, it doesn't matter what comes my way, I'm still going to serve you. And that's what I've been doing ever since.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
You guys got some good stories. All right, so now you guys have a men's ministry. Is it based on a specific campus, or tell us about that?
So I was part of a men's accountability group. My brother-in-law was a pastor and has since moved back east for work, but really good guy. He invited me to be part of his accountability group. I was in it for about 2 years and saw the benefit of men holding each other accountable. I have a friend, his brother, Paul, that came to me and said, hey, I want this. I want to be part of something like that. So I brought his name up to the group, and the group was kind of more comfortable with waiting a little bit and watching him. And I'm kind of a move now type of guy. I knew he wanted accountability, so I said, it's okay. I'm going to step away from the group and start my own so I can give him what he needs. And so in 2014, myself, Eric, his brother Paul, and our good friend Donald, we all started our guys' accountability group. And then shortly after, one of your past guests, I'd say within 6 months to a year, John Bonaw joined our group. So we've all been kind of like the core of that for years, and we've had guys come and add, we've had guys leave. But yeah, that's how we got started.
Oh, that's cool. Mm-hmm. So is it just an accountability group now, or is there more going on? Tell me about it.
Well, it's evolved. And I think the reason why it has evolved is the structure of it. So basically, you have a group of men that not only are holding each other accountable, because it's a two-way street. So if I say, hey, hold me accountable in this area, or I'm struggling with this, then the other person can hold them accountable. But as you're doing that, we had this philosophy of not just to be there for them spiritually, but to be there for them like as a friend and to do life together. Mm-hmm. That was the whole idea. Because the more you're connected with someone and you're doing life with them, the more you're going to be more effective, for them. So that just came organically out of it. These things that we started doing. So just like next week, we do this once a year. We collect things along the way, and we make these blessing bags that we give out to the homeless. And so it's grown, and now we're up to 20 different, blessing bags that we've made. And so that's a ministry that's grown out of our group. So our group does that, but we don't say, if you're not in the group, you can't do that. So we've had years where I brought my kids, other people have brought their kids to participate in that. And so, and it's really for anybody that wants to do it, but that's now, it started off as an idea, and now it's a staple, and it's something that it's on the calendar. We look forward to it, and we do it every year.
Okay.
Especially around Christmas time.
Right.
Yeah.
Christmas time is when that stuff is needed the most, especially if there's a blanket or a jacket or a sweatshirt or something like that in that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've lived in Fresno most of my life. Not the whole life. I've gone away and come back, but I see the homeless problem that we have here. And it's not just Fresno. I mean, it's all over. I mean, I was in LA last weekend, and it was a disaster there too. The homeless problem is definitely a high need. So what you guys are doing there, that's pretty awesome. So how many guys you guys have in your accountability group? Or do you still call it accountability group? What do you guys call it?
Yeah.
We call it
Guys group.
Guys accountability group. Has an official name on Facebook, but we call it accountability group. Yeah.
We're at 7 right now.
I'm gonna make us do math now and count. 7.
7 guys.
Yeah, we
Seven
just
guys.
have a new member that just joined, and I've known him since junior high, and it was kind of weird because I talked to him, and I had never invited him to the group, and there just was this one time when I was talking to him on the phone, I said, hey, we have this accountability group, you should come check it out, and later he said, me and my wife were talking, and we had some things that were going on. COVID kind of fizzled those things out, and then we were looking for something else, and then I had asked him about that. So maybe he would have said no if I'd asked, 2 years before. So it's just kind of cool how God brings people into the group. He said he feels like it's family already, and that was like that first weekend that we went to Tahoe. So we have trips that we take too, with all the guys, bonding things that we do, just to grow closer to one another as human beings.
You guys associated to any particular church as a group, or?
We're a hodgepodge. We go to church together.
Yeah, all of us go to church. All from different churches. But this accountability group is you don't have to be a part of a certain church. You can come to the group, and you can be, with whatever church you want to be with.
Do you interact with any of the men's paraministries like Iron Men or Mighty Men or any of that?
We've done some stuff with our church. Like we had a thing called Bibles, Burritos, and Bullets, where you go out shooting and eat breakfast burritos, and they have a Bible study. We've all done that, but part of what I'd like to see with this ministry is for local churches to adopt the structure and start using it within their church.
Yeah. Well, some churches do. Like I go to Clovis Hills, and they have the AMPed program,
They're
which
great.
is it's a real strong men's ministry there. The thing about men is it's really funny because like you'll have like a women's hey, okay, we're gonna do a women's retreat, and like 2 days after it's been announced, it's all booked out. You know what I mean? And then with guys, it's like they're like pulling teeth to get them to commit.
Well, it's 100% easier for a guy to say no to something. Like canceled plans are just great, right?
I can take a nap.
Like if somebody says, "What'd you do this week?" and you're like, "Nothing," they're like, "Yeah." We really try to be organic. It's relationship based, but here's what I'll say. Even guys that aren't Christian, when they hear what we're doing, there's something attractive about it, and there's something where they say, I'd like something like that. That's really kind of cool. It's camaraderie, it's brotherhood, it's for a good purpose. We're becoming better husbands, better fathers, better friends, better at doing ministry, better at work, better health, everything. So there's lots of benefits to it.
That's cool.
And it's not just we call it the guys accountability group, but what's come out of that is everyone has wives, so in the group, and if you don't have a wife, you can still be in the group. But that's how it works.
You got no wife, get out of here.
Yeah, get out of here. No wife, okay, gotta go. But what's cool about it is all our wives talk to each other, and they become closer friends because of the group.
Yeah.
Because we were intentional of doing life together and having events at each other's houses and doing that over the years, they've grown closer to one another. And the funny thing about that is that as the wives got closer to one another, the accountability got more accountable.
Yeah.
Because wives talk to other wives. And so there's no fake coming to groups saying,
Right.
"Oh, everything's fine at home," when you guys have been fighting all week. They're like, "Are you sure?" because my wife was just telling me,
Right.
and so there's, you can't come fake to the group, and that's just something that's organic that has come out of that. And we've had times where we've, put people on the hot seat, with love,
Yeah.
based on, situations in their life and maybe different thinking about certain things that you're doing,
Yeah, I mean, I can imagine that's what the point of accountability group. Somebody's obviously like coming to, work coked out. You're gonna have to say something to them, or if they're drinking too much, or
We haven't had that problem yet. But
I thought I was gonna nail it first guess.
No.
So part of what we do, and the reason we haven't had that is we developed kind of a guys group agreements based on the 5 New Testament purposes of discipleship, accountability, or discipleship, fellowship, worship, service, ministry. What is it? Discipleship, evangelism, fellowship, worship, and service.
Service, yeah.
There we go. I'm going back years to Doug Fields and Rick Warren. But for each of those purposes, we've developed kind of like, okay, these are the verses that we're going to take and apply to that. This is a quote, so we got a quote and everything. And what we try to do is we try to live those things. And so we've never done it perfectly. It's like the book of James. Like, if you read the book of James, you're never doing the book of James the way he says. It's always something to work on. And so these are kind of the picture of what we want to be and what we're striving to be.
All right. God bless you guys.
Hey, thank
we
you.
have this saying that we
All right,
do
God
on the
bless
show,
you.
and that is, you guys are rad for Christ.
Yeah.
Definitely
Nice.
fired up for Jesus, and we'd love to see that here. All right, guys, thank you so much for joining us again on another episode of Radical Christianity. It means so much that you have joined us, and it is important that I get to take the moment to single out that one person who is watching this show right now, who is feeling Jesus tug on his heartstrings. That is not an abnormal feeling. That is the feeling that you get when Jesus is telling you it's time to commit to him. So if you're feeling those heartstrings tugs, just talk to Jesus. Talk to him about it. Say, hey, Jesus, it is time that I lay down my ways and take up your ways. Turn me into the person that you've designed me to be. The fact that you just, your life may be a little bit upside down. It may be that you're going through some serious torment or something, and you've just realized that your life is not headed the way that you want it to head. And it may be very desirable for you to live a different kind of life. And you're like, well, how am I ever going to do that? You might be seeing some serious challenges, and these things can be worked through. Just put your trust in Jesus, give your problems to God, and press on. And God will work you through these things. If there's anything you can learn from watching the guests on this show, is that Jesus will have your back. That's going to happen. So if you're feeling those heartstring tugs, just talk to Jesus. Tell him that you need him, that you want him to be in your heart, and that you want him to take over your life and be the Lord of your life. And, if you believe in your heart that Jesus died on the cross and rose from the dead, and that he is the Son of God, you are saved. And that is a pretty important thing. So if you have said that prayer, by the way, while watching this show, I want to welcome you to the kingdom of God, but I also would be really excited to hear from you about it. And I would love to be able to send you a Bible. So if you could go to our website, which is radforchrist.com. That's R-A-D, the number 4, Christ.com. And there's a little got saved form. If you can just fill out that form, I can send you a Bible. And I'll even send a little gift too. And it would be a beautiful time for us to be able to celebrate your coming into the family of God. Also, if you have a question or a prayer request, we have forms for those things also on the website. And if you want to reach out to us on social media or whatever, and we would love to hear from you guys. We just want you to know that we are here to serve. Now, this is really important. The most important thing of all. And that is Jesus Christ loves you. And so do I. Thank you for watching Radical Christianity. We'll see you next week.
And I'm not giving up, I'm not giving up, no, not me. Even if nobody else believes, I'm not going down that easily. So don't give up on me.
It's a mystery.